It's not that far from Clare to here being the fateful county of Offaly. The Bannermen travelled in confidence. They've been unlucky not to win promotion from Division 4.
We're going out in 6 minutes. Get yourselves ready there now.
Remember, their opposition in O'Connor Park, Tullamore, hadn't won a championship match in 3 years, so the pressure was on the home side. It showed in the opening 35 minutes. Depending on your perspective, Clare were either very good or Offaly were awful. It took 22 minutes for them to score, a point by midfielder Brian Geraghty. Half-time, Clare 6, Offaly 1. Offaly manager Tom Cribben decided to redesign his team at the break and introduced Sean Pender, Graham Guilfoyle and David Egan. And it was the latter who scored the goal with the help of a wicked deflection after 9 minutes into the second half to reduce Clare's lead to a point. 5 minutes later, Clare midfielder Gary Brennan from Clondegad, who was outstanding, created the chance that was brilliantly finished by Shannon's Kevin Cahill. Clare won 10, Offaly won 5. The game over? Not yet. 3 minutes to go, Clare led by 4. In football, that's a lot. But Offaly is not called the faithful for nothing. Niall McNamee provided the leadership, and a cracking shot that took another deflection smashed off the crossbar to the waiting Ken Casey, who made no mistake from close range. 1 minute to go, and a miscued 45 by Kieran McManus fell to the substitute Graham Guilfoyle, who kicked over the equaliser. Full time, Clare 1-13, Offaly 2-10. Extra time required. Offaly looked the fitter side during the next 20 minutes and scored 8 times to Clare's 5. Niall McNamee, Ken Casey, Carl Slattery all got on the scoring sheet as a team that looked ragged initially were quite simply transformed. It ended up 14-aside as Clare's Graham Kelly was sent off on a second yellow card for this shoulder charge on Stephen Larmigan. It seemed particularly harsh. Later, Offaly cornerback Brian Darby was also sent off on a second yellow. Clare will wonder how they lost this one on a day when David Tubridy scored 12 points and didn't win. Offaly can build on this, but they will know that they got out of jail in Tullamore. Full-time score after extra time, Offaly 2-18, Clare 1-18.
It's a huge win for Offaly football. Those young players needed that win. Hopefully we can grow in confidence now and take this thing to another level. It's been 3 years since they've won a championship match, and that meant an awful lot to them there today, is to show great character.
All right, let's reflect on some of those games. You were at the Armagh-Donegal game. Are Armagh good or are Donegal shocking?
Well, I don't want to spend my roundup time talking about Donegal because they were just shocking and let themselves down badly, I felt.
Are Armagh in the hunt then?
They are. They're definitely, as I said yesterday, they relaunched their championship ambitions. They had a few injuries going into it, so they gave youth its fling, and they were rewarded with young Clark and Swift. Anton Duffy, unfortunately, was doing well, but has taken what looked like a dirty injury now. So, yeah, it was a day for youth, and they did very, very well. Dangerous opponents now in the next round.
All right. We had the Carlow Derry game, and I suppose the big talking point there, Dara, was that Paddy Bradley didn't show up with Derry.
Yeah, and it will be a talking point, and it's never a good sign when one of your key players decides to defect like that. Owen Bradley more than compensated with 1-6, but at the same time you need Paddy Bradley on the field, and you know, from a distance it looks like there's a bit of discontent in the Derry camp. They've had a long break in mitigation. They've had a long break, and that win will bring them on an awful lot. And there was always only going to be one result in that game, I would have thought, but at the same time the vibes are not good coming out of Derry. All
right then, Kildare and Antrim, that's a replay next Saturday in Casement Park. How do you see that one going, Kevin?
It would be a hard one enough to call. I thought Antrim, you know, when you take into consideration the circumstances that surrounded Dermot and his colleagues, I thought Antrim would win yesterday, you know. It goes back up to Casement Park next week. I would say a 50-50 call on that. I think Kildare will improve, obviously. Antrim, being at home, is a great advantage in the qualifiers. Slight advantage with Antrim.
And Offaly got out of jail maybe against Clare, Dara. Can they build on that, do you think?
Yeah, Tom Cribben talking about bringing it to the next level. On the evidence in the 2 games they've played so far, I would have my doubts. I don't doubt that it's a source of great encouragement that they win their first championship game in 3 years, but they haven't always embraced the qualifiers with the way they should, and I think it's just a stay of execution, to be honest, for Offaly.
All right, OK. Sorry it's not more optimistic for you. Now to our next 4 games. And